Welcome to the TDTV channel. We provide information on the battlefield about the Russo-Ukrainian war every day. Like and subscribe to support us. Over the past 24 hours, Bakhmut seems to have turned into rubble and is one of the bloodiest battlefields of the invasion. Intense fighting has continued in and around the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut as both Kyiv and Moscow seemingly struggle with ammunition shortages and mounting casualties. Ukrainian forces still control the city despite the street fighting, the deputy mayor of Bakhmut, Oleksandr Marchenko, told BBC Radio 4. Though Russian forces are pounding the routes out of the city, they have publicly pleaded with Moscow for more supplies. Volodymyr Nazarenko, a senior commander of Ukraine, also described the battle in Bakhmut as hell, but the defences remain stable and Russian forces can only advance to the outskirts of the city. He believes that the Russian side is running out of ammunition. In this evaluation, Kirilo Budanov, the head of Ukraine's military intelligence agency, stated on March 5th that Russia has wasted a large amount of manpower, weapons and material. Their economy and production cannot make up for these losses. They have changed their military command system. The Russian military fails in their objectives this spring. They will run out of military resources. He predicted that Russia would run out of resources by the end of this spring, while their domestic military industry would also struggle to make up for the losses. According to him, a decisive battle will take place this spring, and it will be the final battle before the conflict ends. Russia began increasing its offensive intensity at the end of January this year, focusing on the Donbass front in eastern Ukraine, particularly Bakhmut. Russia is trying to control Bakhmut after 8 months of fighting. This is the only front where Russia has an advantage after a series of retreats from last summer that forced Moscow to withdraw its troops from Kharkiv and Kherson. The fierce fighting in Bakhmut has exhausted a large number of resources in both manpower and military equipment from Russia and Ukraine. Kyiv officials recently admitted to shortages of ammunition and other weapons. Western military analysts have been predicting that Ukraine would order a tactical withdrawal from Bakhmut to stem losses and regroup. But the Ukrainian military insisted they were staying put, with a spokesperson for the East, Serhiy Sherevaty, denying on Saturday that they were planning to withdraw in an interview with Khan. Thousands of Russian military personnel died trying to capture Bakhmut, whose population before the war was about 75,000 people. The Ukrainian command stated that Russia lost 7 times more soldiers than it did. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has stated that the country's armed forces are severely lacking in artillery, ammunition, fighter jets and tanks. Artillery is what we need the most. Both the artillery system and large quantities of shells, Zelensky said at a joint press conference with his Latvian counterpart in Lviv, western Ukraine last week. Bakhmut is a small city in the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine. Russia currently has the city surrounded from 3 sides, east, north and south, and continuously attacks the only remaining supply route of Ukraine here. However, the Institute for the Study of War believes that Russia will have difficulty quickly encircling the city due to its slow progress. Meanwhile, Western military analysts predict that Ukraine will carry out a strategic withdrawal to limit losses and regroup forces for a future counteroffensive plan. The Ukrainian military and government have stated that they will defend Bakhmut for as long as possible, but not at any cost or with the sacrifice of lives. The Ukrainian forces' efforts to hold out in Bakhmut are seen as a way to erode Russia's resources and make it difficult for Russia to carry out a major attack in the spring or summer. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder of Russia's Wagner mercenary force, said his troops, now tightening their grip on the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, were being deprived of ammunition, and if they were forced to retreat, the entire front would collapse. He complained that the Russian Ministry of Defense is not supporting Wagner's efforts in terms of men and ammunition. He said in a video published over the weekend, if Wagner retreats from Bakhmut now, the whole front will collapse. And the situation will not be sweet for all military formations protecting Russian interests. Prigozhin on Friday said that his units had practically surrounded Bakhmut, where fighting has intensified in the past week with Russian forces attacking from nearly all sides. But on Sunday he complained that most of the ammunition that his forces were promised by Moscow in February had not yet been shipped. He said, "For now, we are trying to figure out the reason. Is it just ordinary bureaucracy or a betrayal?" In a nearly 4-minute video published on the Wagner Orchestra Telegram channel on Saturday, Prigozhin said his troops were worried that Moscow wanted to set them up as possible scapegoats if Russia lost the war. He added, "If we retreat, then we will go down in history forever as people who have taken the main step towards losing the war. This is exactly the problem with ammunition hunger." Experts analyze the current battle for Bakhmut and Russian prospects for further offensive efforts. According to the Institute for the Study of War, ISO, it is possible that Ukrainian forces are conducting a limited combat withdrawal in eastern Bakhmut and continue to inflict significant losses on the offensive mixed forces of Russia. Russian military bloggers have also lowered their expectations regarding the ability of Russian troops to launch additional offensives that will likely end regardless of whether Russian troops actually capture Bakhmut. If the Russian troops succeed in defending Bakhmut, they might try to restart their offensive towards Kostiantynivka or Sloviansk, but they will be constrained by a shortage of personnel and equipment. The expected unavoidable outcome of the Russian attack on Bakhmut, whether before or after its capture, combined with the Russian offensive around Vuhledar and the halted Russian advance in the Luhansk region, is likely to create favorable circumstances for a future Ukrainian counter-offensive. On March 5, Russian war correspondents and military bloggers asserted that they had taken control of the eastern, northern and southern areas of Bakhmut and provided reports from their positions in the eastern region. However, the International Security Watch is currently unable to corroborate these assertions independently. As of March 4, a Ukrainian serviceman informed the media that Russian forces had not yet crossed the Bakhmutka River, located in the middle of Bakhmut, but Russian sources claimed that the Wagner group had pushed Ukrainian positions to the center of the city. Despite the Ukrainian forces suffering heavy losses, their strategic defenses in Bakhmut remain intact as they continue to damage Russian troops and equipment. It is unlikely that Ukrainian forces will withdraw immediately from Bakhmut, and they may opt for a gradual withdrawal with ongoing combat operations to wear down Russian forces through sustained urban warfare. Typically, urban warfare favors those on the defensive, making it challenging for Russian forces to make significant territorial gains quickly. Ukrainian forces may inflict substantial losses on Russian offensive units, even if they are actively retreating. Unless Russian forces can advance directly to the north or south of Bakhmut and west of the city center, they will have to pass through the urban area located on the west bank of the Bakhmutka River. This terrain, along with the river's features, can benefit Ukrainian forces if they can hold the line from Kremovo in the northwest to the Bakhmut-Kostiantynivka route in the south. As noted by Russian military bloggers, despite Russian attempts to attack Ivanovsky and the T-504 route in the south, Ukrainian troops are still capable of defending Kromov and repulsing these attacks. If Ukrainian forces can hold their positions near Kromovoy and on the T-504 route, it could compel Russian forces to engage in urban warfare in the center of Bakhmut, resulting in significant setbacks and casualties for the Russian military and hastening the conclusion of their offensive. The impact of urban warfare in Bakhmut could further diminish the already weakened Russian hybrid force, similar to the outcome of Ukraine's retreat from the Severodonetsk-Lysychansk line, which effectively put a stop to Russian offensive operations in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions in the summer of 2022. The intense fighting cost Russia additional losses. According to Newsweek, aerial footage posted to Twitter on Sunday from the defense of Ukraine shows a Russian tank being obliterated by Ukrainian troops on the battlefield. In the video, a tank is visibly on fire with smoke coming out of its top. Nearly 25 seconds into the video, the tank then explodes. The defense of Ukraine tweeted, "The list of things you can watch forever has been officially extended." Number 4 is Russian tanks being exploded, adding that the video was taken by the 72nd Mechanized Brigade. Meanwhile, similar posts last week showed Russian tanks getting demolished by Ukrainian forces. One video posted to Twitter on Tuesday reportedly showed 5 Russian tanks being blown up on the battlefield. according to an assessment by a US-based think tank. Almost a year into President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, Russian forces have lost about half of their T-72 and T-72 and T-72 BOP-3 main battle tank. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Sunday, the total number of Russian tanks lost from February 24 to March 5 is 3,414. The General Staff also said that the number of Russian personnel lost due to Putin's invasion climbed to 153,120 people. Rajan Menon, the director for the Grand Strategy Program Defense Priorities, told Newsweek on Sunday even official Ukrainian statements about the artillery exchange ratio between Russia and Ukraine point to the massive Russian advantage. So there's no sign that Russia is facing a shortage yet, or will anytime soon. Menon added, on the other hand, Ukraine has made an urgent request for the West to send more artillery shells urgently. As for armor, Russia's losses have indeed been very high. What we don't have a good fix on, however, is long it will take before shortfalls begin to manifest themselves and how much Western armor Ukraine will receive and when. According to the Department of Defense, DOD, on Friday, President Joe Biden announced another aid package for Ukraine that is valued at up to $400 million. Included in the package will be more ammunition and support equipment for Ukraine's precision fires, artillery and armored vehicle operations. In total, the Biden government has sent more than $32 billion in aid to Ukraine amid Russia's full-scale invasion. Russia announced the ambush of the elite Azov regiment headquarters of Ukraine. In the announcement of updating the war situation on March 5, Lieutenant General Igor Konashenkov, a spokesman for the Ministry of Defense, said that the country's military has caused serious damage to the Ukrainian side. Konashenkov said a commander of the Azov regiment was hit in the area of Marievka village in Zaporizhia. He also affirmed that the Russian army carried out shelling and hit 83 fire floods in Ukraine. In Donetsk, 210 Ukrainian soldiers were also eliminated from the fight after the attacks of the fire of the Russian fighter and artillery aircraft. In the Kherson area in southern Ukraine, the spokesman for the Russian Ministry of Defense revealed that Ukraine had lost 30 soldiers, 10 military vehicles and many self-propelled artillery and grenades in the past 24 hours. Ukraine's unmanned aircraft command centers have also been destroyed in Donetsk and Kharkiv, along with many advanced electronic warfare devices. In addition, Russian air defense complexes have also conducted interception activities, causing relatively large damage to Ukraine. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry has not yet commented on the information. Russian troops were ordered to fight with shovels in hand-to-hand combat, deployed units meant to shoot its own retreating soldiers. According to the UK's Ministry of Defence on Friday, Russian soldiers are being ordered to fight Ukrainian forces with only firearms and shovels. The shovels are likely entrenching tools being employed for hand combat and hand combat. It is thought that the shovels in question are the renowned Empel 50 entrenching tools, first designed in 1869. Soviet special forces used it in close-quarters combat and as throwing weapons. The Empel 50 as a weapon had been mythologized in Russia. Using the entrenching tool, little changed since it was designed in 1869, highlighted the brutal and low-tech fighting which has come to characterize the year-long war between Russia and Ukraine. The increase in hand-to-hand combat in Ukraine was due to a declining number of troops, artillery, and munition. Further, Russia's military is likely deploying units with the sole purpose of threatening to shoot soldiers caught retreating in Ukraine. The intelligence briefing also raised the question of the welfare of Russian troops, stating that a reservist said they were not physically or psychologically ready for the war. A swathe of reports and Western intelligence updates have pointed to low morale in the Russian army as it continues its war in Ukraine, and in particular since Ukraine started to win back territory and push back Russian forces in September. The fighting ability and morale of Putin's mobilized troops were highlighted in previous intelligence from the Ministry of Defense, saying they were called to fight despite having serious chronic health conditions. Indeed, it has been reported that Russian forces have been deploying barrier troops or blocking units to shoot Russian soldiers who defect and desert the war. According to a brief from the Center for Strategic International Studies, CSIS, between 60,000 and 70,000 Russian soldiers have been killed on the battlefield in Ukraine since the invasion began on February 24, 2022. Thank you for watching the whole video. Leave a comment below to discuss today's topic. Click subscribe and notification bell to not miss our next videos on TV News. See you in the next videos on 2TV.